The Las Vegas Raiders have been on the cusp of becoming a really good team for the last couple of years. They were right there in 2022 just like they were in 2021. Their performance in one-score games is the difference between going 10-7 into the playoffs and 6-11 and going home. They were 7-2 in those one-score games in 2021 and 4-9 in such games in 2022. You can't really blame anyone either. What happened with Gruden, and the Raiders had to learn a new way to win. Not all the players were comfortable in that style of play, so head coach Josh McDaniels and GM Dave Ziegler got rid of those players and replaced them with players that are more of their speed. So it's time for the Raiders to take that next step now. All those one-score losses started in Week 1 against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Raider offensive line had a horrible day that day, giving up 6 sacks. But then Raider quarterback Derek Carr didn't make mistakes when he was under pressure. He made mistakes when he had all day to throw, and the Raiders would go on to lose that game 25-19. In Week 2 against the Arizona Cardinals, Davante Adams got going early, and Max Crosby was holding it down on defense. So the Raiders jumped out to a 20-0 halftime lead, but they couldn't hold on to it. And in overtime, the game came down to this. Hunter Renfrow fumbled, the Cardinals returned it for a touchdown, and they won the game 29-23. Then in Week 3 against the Tennessee Titans, the Raiders were down 24-10 at halftime but battled back. And of course, the game would once again come down to the wire. But you know what's been happening with Carr and the Raiders in the red zone the last few years. And that was the painful final score. Then in Week 4 against the Kansas City Chiefs, Carr and superstar receiver Davante Adams were on, and they jumped out to a 20-0 lead. But Raider fans already knew that Patrick Mahomes was going to make a game out of it, and he did. As a matter of fact, he went up 30-29 very late in the game. Adams and Renfrow ran into each other, and the ball fell harmlessly to the turf. Then in Week 9 in Jacksonville against the Jaguars, they jump out to a 20-10 halftime lead. And then all of a sudden, quarterback Trevor Lawrence and running back Travis Etienne got going, and they crept back into the game. They ran off 17 straight points, and with this stop at the end, they won the game 27-20. Then in Week 11 against the Indianapolis Colts, the battle came down to this play. The Raiders' best against the Colts' best. Davante Adams against Stephon Gilmore. And as you just saw, Gilmore was a winner, so the Colts were the winners. And the final count on that one was 25-20. Then in Week 14, the Raiders are up on the Los Angeles Rams 13-3 with a chance to put the game away just before halftime. But it's intercepted, and that would come back to haunt them. The Rams will go on to outscore the Raiders 14-3 in the fourth quarter to win 17-16. The Rams went 98 yards in the final minute 45 on that last touchdown. Then in Week 16 in Pittsburgh, the Raiders go up 10-3 at halftime against the Steelers. But the Steelers came back and outscored the Raiders 10-0 in the fourth quarter. The Raiders did have one last chance to win after that, but Carr doesn't know how to throw the ball in cold, windy weather, so this happened, and the Steelers won 13-10. So the next week at home against the San Francisco 49ers, the Raiders decide to start Jarrett Stidham, and the result is the same. The Raiders led 17-14 at halftime, but couldn't hold on to the lead. The 49ers came back and won it in overtime, 37-34. How about this? Of the Raiders' 9 one-score losses, 5 of them were by 3 points or less. Well, Carr was one of the problems, so the Raiders cut him and went out and got Jimmy Garoppolo, who throws a much better deep ball than he gets credit for, but Carr is superior to in that area. But Garoppolo is better throwing the ball under pressure. He's much better in the red zone. Carr struggles in the red zone. And he's much better in cold weather. I know. He had weapons like super tight end George Kittle. He had Deebo Samuel at one of the receiver spots. He had Brandon Ayuk at one of the other receiver spots. And he had running back Christian McCaffrey to take pressure off from running the ball. And to be another weapon in the passing game. But it's not like he's going to have a bunch of bums around him with the Raiders. He's going to have Adams, the best receiver in the NFL. He's going to have Michael Mayer, the best tight end in the 2023 NFL Draft. He's going to have Hunter Renfrow, one of the better slot receivers in the league. And he's going to have Josh Jacobs, the best running back in the league, to run the ball for him. And catch passes from him. Then of course there are the injuries that Garoppolo has had since he's been with the 49ers. The latest one to put him out of commission was his foot injury. He went 8-3 in those 11 games before succumbing to that injury. But the thing is, it ain't just him. They ain't doing something right with their quarterbacks in San Francisco. Before failing to protect Garoppolo, they lost Trey Lance on this quarterback counter Trey. He was the first 49er quarterback to go out with a season-ending injury. And after Garoppolo's injury, Brock Purdy came in and took him to the playoffs. And what happened there? He injured his throwing elbow on that play and the 49ers were done. The 49ers had a great defense too. Well, I'm not going to say the Raiders are going to have a great defense this year, but they're going to have a much improved defense. They finally got edge rush from Max Crosby some help. At some point on the other edge will be 2023 number 7 overall Tyree Wilson. I absolutely can't wait to see him. An interior defensive lineman Jerry Tillery's push up the middle will give quarterbacks nowhere to go when the edge rusher gets there. Third round pick Byron Young will help in that area as well. The secondary is going to be different too. They got Marcus Epps to help out on the back end. At corner, Nate Hobbs, who was playing well before his wrist injury, will be back. Fourth round steal, Jacorian Bennett is impressing in camp right now. And then there's the dog himself, number 24, Marcus Peters. He's always worth a few turnovers. The Raiders have added some depth too. We should definitely be enthused about the Raiders this year. Those that said they're tanking for Caleb Williams need to go sit down somewhere. They're not that bad of a team. All they have to do to get back in the playoffs is reverse some of those one-score games, and they've done plenty this offseason to do that, starting with quarterback. Carr didn't know the offense and probably didn't fit it that well, so we had a bad year last year. So McDaniels has his man now in Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows the offense, fits the offense, and is better in the red zone than Carr. That in itself will reverse a lot of those one-score games, but the defense is much better. So let's go. Thank you for watching. See you next time.